Hi everyone, we've just gone live. Just say hello in the chat box so that I know that you can hear me and that you're ready to go. Hi. I assume that means that people can hear me. I'm just waiting for the numbers to click up, so do a little bit of the slow start, beginning of a webinar. We are talking today about helping others and what the pros and cons are of helping other people. I've got a fairly small group today, so a little bit intimate. A lot of my webinars are quite interactive. Today's won't be interactive. It's going to be more of a fast-paced 30-minute listing of helping and literally the pros and the cons of helping, and just to get you thinking about yourself as a helper, and maybe other people that you know who like to be helpers. Certainly plenty of benefits, but there's also some downsides as well, some darker sides that most people aren't aware of. I'd like to acknowledge the Gumbaynggirr peoples, upon whose country I'm currently sitting as the traditional custodians of the lands upon which I'm meeting you today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. If there's any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people with us here today, I extend a warm welcome to you. The acknowledgement of country is actually about acknowledging the country and getting a feel for the country. Having attended a webinar recently on acknowledgements to country, it was laughingly stated, but quite accurate, that you're actually each welcoming me into your office, living room, whatever space that you're in through technology. And so I should actually be acknowledging you as the sovereign owner of that space, and the fact that I have entered that space through this use of technology. So I acknowledge all of you. So I'm Nigel. I'm a psychological coach with Uprise. I'm a psychotherapist and counsellor by registration and profession. I provide a great deal of counselling services, supervisory services, training services, group services to organisations, individuals, on a whole range of issues, and that's where my expertise comes from. Please, if you have any questions or comments, just pop them in the chat. I can respond to them along the way. Really, in this webinar, what you'll be doing is giving signs of acknowledgement of, yep, that's me, yes, I get that, yes, I noticed that, and sharing just a little bit of your experience in response to each of the examples that I'm putting up. So this is the overview. This is basically what we're talking about. There are lots of advantages to helping other people. Good, solid evidence with research behind it to show that, yep, helping other people is indeed a good thing. It's good for your mental health. It's good for their mental health. It's good for the well-being of society. It can be good for the well-being of the planet. Certainly good for your soul. But there are also these disadvantages to helping other people, and there's quite a list. So I'm going to take you through them one at a time. So the advantages. So helping other people builds community. I think most of you would have heard that quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." I don't know what the original source is for that quote, but it is one that's often quoted, and it's one that's often used to describe one of the things that's gone wrong with our individualistic, capitalized, and technologized societies, that we hardly, it went from being a village raising a child to two parents raising a child to one parent raising a child. And now we are in a society where we have pretty much zero parents raising every child, because those two parents are either expected or expect themselves to work full time and have busy careers. And there's a curiosity about where does that leave children. So helping and contributing to other people, whether it's in a community garden, whether it's in a family daycare setting, whether it's in some sort of other volunteer capacity, even if it's just going to your elderly neighbour's house, or somebody close by who's got a disability or other challenges, and just popping around and saying good day and having a cuppa and giving them a hand, maybe giving somebody in the community a hand with their with a building project. It builds community, and it creates an environment that's conducive for us as humans to live in. Helping other people also connects you to something much greater than yourself. It's actually, this quote is from Martin Luther King Jr. Everyone can be great because everyone can serve. And the idea is there is if you give yourself freely to a cause, a great cause, then you are also contributing to that greatness. You are part of that. I think the most obvious examples are church communities, which not only connect you to a church or faith community, but it also connects you to the deity, to the God that church community worships. And so, yeah, helping others can actually be very connecting to something much greater than yourself, a bigger cause, a bigger vision, a bigger mission, something that by yourself you wouldn't be able to tackle or achieve. We've had experiments and research and practices recently that suggest that helping others might actually be the best cure for serious addictions. And this is a quote from Gabor Mate, who does who's a medical doctor, Dr. Gabor Mate, who does a lot of work in addictions, but also is much more interested in trauma and the connection between trauma and addictions. And this is a fairly direct quote: "Connection is the opposite of addiction." And in Portugal, in particular, they've tried a system of decriminalising all addictive drugs and not making them available, but not coming down hard on people who use them. And rather than incarcerating people who use drugs, sell drugs, etc., which is commonplace in the US and other Western countries, they aim to uh, connect addicts to community projects, so that the addicts feel like they are able to contribute to something greater than themselves. They're able to give back to people who are in worse circumstances than they are, probably through no choice of their own. And they're actually able to be part of a meaningful community. And this has had very, very positive results. And so helping others is actually a good cure for your addiction. If you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, go and connect with other people, join with other people, find people who are struggling even more than you are, and figure out what you can do to help them and who else is doing that, and do that work with them. The next pro is that helping others gives you perspective. It's really impossible to be genuinely helpful to someone else without at least momentarily glimpsing the world through their eyes. Even if you're just giving to which is being classic world vision, giving to a child in Africa, helping to pay for their education. The reciprocation is that normally that child will send letters, photos, and give you a glimpse into their life. And that glimpse into the life of another person enables you to see the world from a completely different perspective, and discover that when you look at the world from that different perspective, you see a different world, and that opens up your way of seeing and being in the world, and the possibilities that you're willing and able to engage with in the world. So helping others has the benefit of giving you perspective. Helping others also gives a sense of meaning and purpose, particularly when you help someone else in a way that feels important to you. It gives a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Like you are here for a reason. You'll hear people say things like, "This is what I was born to do. This is the reason that I was put on this earth. This makes sense to me." And whatever that thing is, it tends to be pretty unique for all of us. We And when I work with clients, this is a conversation that I've moved towards a lot. What feels good to you? What's meaningful to you? What did you used to want to do? What was a cause that sort of broke your heart, that really moved you? What's something that you feel really? What are some people that you feel really compassionate towards? And what might you be able to do for them? What skills do you have? What knowledge do you bring? What have you got that might be useful? And even people who say, well, nothing, that's not true, because they've got energy. They've got energy, and hopefully they've got some time. And time and energy are two of the rarest commodities that we have nowadays in our culture. So if you have time, if you have the energy to do something because it's important to you, then you can make that meaningful contribution and bring purpose to your life. So helping others brings joy, can make you happy. And this is a Chinese proverb. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help somebody. So it's an interesting proverb that really strongly suggests that there's an ancient wisdom that concurs with this idea that when you help other people, it can bring you joy. The feeling of making a meaningful contribution to someone else's life in a way that makes them happy also makes you happy. And very often, if you are in a helping profession, I'm in a helping profession. This is what I do all day, every day. It's those moments when someone has tears in their eyes and they turn to you and they say, "Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you," or they sort of overcome some huge barrier, and they say, I can't believe this has happened. Thank you for being part of this with me. I'll never forget you, or I'll never forget this." It really does fill me with joy, and brings us great sense of awe and wonder, and feelings of peace and everything being right with the world. That's not always easy to experience. The evidence is also really supportive that volunteering more than 4 hours a week has a high correlation with lower blood pressure and a longer lifespan. So if you want to live longer, one of the things that you can do is you can volunteer. You can actively spend time helping other people. It's physically good for you too. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the disadvantages. And I might spend a little bit more time lingering on these because they're less obvious to people. And it could be that this is what some of you are really here to find out, because a lot of us love the idea of helping people, but we don't have clear discrimination and differentiation between that which is really helping other people and that which actually isn't that helpful to other people, and that which is negatively affecting us. So the first one, and it correlates with some of the pros, because one of the earlier pros was that helping others gives you perspective through empathy. You see the world through their eyes. That's what empathy is. But at the other end of this, at the sort of a further end of the spectrum, when we have empathy, then we take on that experience of the suffering of others. So some of you might feel familiar with this. I often talk to clients, sometimes men, mostly women, who really love helping their friends, really are happy to spend hours and hours on their phone to their friends, listening while their friends talk about the challenges that they're experiencing in their lives. Or people like to get involved in careers and jobs where it's their role to help people. Particular ones that I'm thinking of are sort of disability support or community support roles. Often these roles are very low entry level roles. They're not expecting a huge level of skill or training to get into the roles. But nevertheless, when you're in those roles, people can unload a very high level of trauma and distress through what they talk about and the way that they talk about it. And if you're an empathic person, and you sometimes hear people describe themselves as empath, some of you might think of yourselves as empaths. What that means is that if you're an empathic person, you'll absorb all of that pain and suffering. And there is a self-sacrificial aspect to it as well. Sometimes we feel that if we can just take on all of that pain, then maybe we've taken some of that pain off other people. And people often say to me, "Well, isn't that your job as a therapist? Don't people come to you and they just unload all their pain, and then you're left with all that pain?" And at one level, that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely what I do. I'm here to empathize. But through training, you learn to, it's like water off a duck's back, but not water off a duck's back, because as a professional empath, I'm really letting it hit me. I'm really feeling all the feelings that they're feeling, but I'm never losing my own sense of who I am in that process. And we call, actually in the field, you call it toggling. I can actually toggle between my sense of who I am and my sense of who the other person is. And that's actually how we do a lot of our deep work. We work with constructs like transference, countertransference, projections, and we can actually work with that in the room by doing this toggling back and forth between what it's like to be me, what it's like to be you, what it's like to be me, what it's like to be you, but without ever being left with a sense of, oh gosh, I've kind of got that person suffering all over me. So take care with empathy. You will suffer too. Helping others can enable maladaptive behaviors. Yeah. Helping someone can take away their need to help themselves. So this is most common in parenting of children, where parents feel a lot of guilt towards their children. I'm still working with a client at the moment. He's the father of a man in his 40s, and still racked with guilt about the death of the child's mother when the child was just a boy. But has always, because of that guilt, doted on the son. Always just given, 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 given. And the son's just learned to take, 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 and never really taken responsibility for himself. Pathway of addiction, pathway of criminality, ending up in jail, and then even getting the father, caught up in not the criminal activity necessarily, but the police, interested in. And so this gentleman's entire life has been kind of consumed by his enabling of his son. So very, very common in family members of addicts, where the addict will do anything to get what they want, what they need, and the family are desperate to do anything to help, and to try and save the situation. And so we'll cook, clean, give money, do everything thinking, well, this will just make their life a little bit easier. This will make their life a little bit easier. And addicts tend to be very good at saying, well, if I just had this, and if I just had that, and if I could just do this, and if I could just do that. And so people kind of just keep pushing resources in their direction, and they just keep taking, 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 taking. And actually nothing changes, because there's no need for that individual to take personal responsibility for themselves. They can continue to neglect their own personal responsibility, while other people are taking responsibility for them on their behalf. This is similar, but slightly different. Helping others can be a form of rescuing. So where the enabling is often driven by guilt, and enabling is driven by that kind of that sort of previous, or pre-existing close relationship. Rescuing is a feature of codependent relationships, in which the rescuer gets to feel important and valued, whilst their partner gets to remain incapable. So it's that feeling of, I'm helping this person. And look, this is a bit stereotypical, but it's my experience as well. I very often experience this in women forming relationships with men, where women see the man as they see his potential, and they say, "Oh gosh, he's got so much potential. I can really see it. I'm going to stick with him, and I'm going to be the best woman that I can be for him, so that he can reach his potential." And they get caught in a cycle that ends up often becoming quite abusive, where they're committed to this rescuing, because they get the feeling of importance, of being valued, of being of being something significant, being able to maybe be a positive influence, being a force for change in someone else's life. But again, they're caught in that rescuing pattern, and the benefits don't seem to add up. All this energy and effort goes into rescuing, saving, making better, but the other person maybe temporarily sort of seems to get better, but then just falls back into the old pattern again. And people can be caught in this pattern for years or even decades. Rescuing. Sometimes when you're helping others, it can be a form of self-sacrificing, where as the helper, you're investing vast amounts of time and energy into helping someone else. However, that can be to your own detriment. You end up suffering. You end up fatigued. Actually, one of the early signs is, well, there's a couple of early signs that I tend to notice: colds and flus, because people have run themselves down for the benefit of someone else. And the other ones is chronic kinds of different, kind of chronic fatigue syndromes, where there's a sense of just being really, really depleted. And I'll come back to talk a bit more about burnout in a moment. The metaphor for the self-sacrificing is it's like you're pouring from your own cup, but you're pouring into a cup and you can't see that there's holes at the bottom, and you're pouring until you're empty. And you're looking at that other cup and go, but I've just poured everything that I have into you, and I get nothing out of it. There's a hero aspect to self-sacrificing too. We do reward and we do praise socially and culturally. The idea of the Braveheart who was willing to sacrifice themselves for the cause. And so we can get caught in that trap of, oh well, I'll just keep on giving. I'll just keep on giving, and often we're looking for validation, usually from our parents, but we'll take it from who'll give it to us. And if I just keep on giving, if I just keep on giving, if I just keep on giving, then I'll get the validation, I'll get the recognition. People will see, what they see. Employers love these kinds of employees, and if you're one of these kinds of employees, your employer absolutely loves you. Your manager absolutely loves you because you go above and beyond. You don't expect more pay. You'll work on weekends. You'll work on night times. You'll do other people's jobs for them. You'll just do what needs to be done because it needs to be done, because you're that kind of person. You're a practical, hardworking person. But over a long enough period of time, as much loved as you might be, you're still sacrificing yourself, and ultimately other people will take advantage of that. What I often hear, particularly in EAP counseling sessions, is an experience of a person who's gone, well, I've got to a certain point in my career, and I know I'm really good, and I know I'm really well liked, and I know my contribution is really valued, but I'm working stupid hours, my family's being neglected. And then there was this other person who walked into the organization and got promoted above me, and they're slack and they're late and they don't do the job properly and they don't follow the rules. And it's really frustrating because I've always done all the right things and sacrificed myself, and this person's coming above me, and absolutely devastating. Helping other people can be about people pleasing. I often hear you talk to people who talk about, they actually name themselves, and it's actually becoming, well, in my experience, it's becoming more and more common. I'll hear people say, yeah, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. As if this is some new category of human. No, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a purple polka dotted people pleaser. People pleasers want other people to like them, and they will do anything they can to get other people to like them. And it can look similar to the self-sacrificing, but the motivations are different. It's about trying to make other people happy. These people, actually the next slide sort of talks about this more. These people tend to say yes. I was having a conversation with a middle-aged white gentleman the other day who says, yeah, I'm in a meeting, and someone in the meeting, usually someone in authority, says, oh, we really need to do this. And then there's silence. There's 10 people in the room, silence. And my client was going, oh my God, the pressure builds up. And he goes, I know there's 10 people in the room, but I feel like it has to be me. I feel like they're asking me, and if I don't say something, if I don't put my hand up, then I'll be letting them down. Be letting the whole team down. So he keeps putting his hand up. Yes, yes, I can do that. And in his brain, he's going, well, I can do that. I have the skills. I have the capabilities. Do I have the time? No. I'm already working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus weekends. But it has to be done. And that person needs it done, and they'll be happy if I do it. But they probably won't be that happy that you'll do it. You put your hand up, you take the thing, and they go, good, one thing off my mind. Don't have to worry about that anymore. People pleasers often lose themselves in the process. People describe, particularly in intimate relationships, work relationships, sometimes, but intimate relationships in particular. If you're a people pleaser, I'm sorry, for Indian, if there's any Indian women in the audience, Indian women are my clients that come to mind, where they work very, very hard to, and this is not general, of course, but these are my clients that I've seen. So it's anecdotal experience, but they have an experience of getting into relationships with men, sometimes marriages, where they perceive their role to be to make sure that the husband stays happy with them. And very often what I hear them say is, well, after 5-10 years, I don't even know who I am anymore. I've just spent all this time trying to make this other person happy. I don't even know what makes me happy. I'll say to them, because often in therapy, I'll say, well, what do you want? And you get this blank look. What? What I want? Is that a thing? My mind is completely geared to thinking about what other people want. I don't even know how to come at a question like, what do you want? So this is the other one. And it's part of people pleasing, I think, often. But it might also not be. It's just because you can't say no. Oh, would you mind grabbing that from the shops? Would you mind doing that for me? Would you mind doing that for me? Oh, I'm really having a hard time. Would it be okay? You've got a bit of time on your hands. Would you be able to do that for me? You're good at this kind of thing. Do you think you could do that? You're excellent with graphic design. We really need someone to do the logo. You can do that, can't you? And if you're the person that keeps on saying yes, 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 then slowly but surely you're going to be piled under a mountain. You put us in those images of people with desks just stacked with paper, and they're losing themselves behind it. That's what that's what happens to the yes person. It's just piles up and piles up and piles up, and then they're buried, and they blame themselves. This is the tragedy. If you're a yes person, if you're a people pleaser, and you become snowed under, you blame yourself, and it's painful. It's painful to watch, and it's painful to experience, and it's very, very sad. People who succeed in this world are surprisingly good at saying no. Say yes, in this, and this is kind of business and career advice. You say yes for a while, but you keep in mind that there's a point at which you're going to start saying no. And so, for usually in the very early stages of trying to get into a career or trying to get into a business or being a startup, you're saying yes because you want to build relationships. But quite quickly, you get to the point where you go, right, that's it. I'm saying no. And saying no is extremely empowering and also very supportive of future success because it opens up opportunities for other things. Another sort of success tip for life, always allow space for something else to come into your life of your choosing. This has gone slower than I thought. Okay, helping others can hide deeper problems. So this is a really important one. Could we get the feedback link in the chat? I'm going to go a couple of minutes over. So we'll get the feedback link in the chat. So please just provide the feedback. This is really, I talk to people particularly in helping professions, and particularly in education, community services, not-for-profits, and anything to do with large government systems. Often people at the bottom who are sort of on the front line helping other people go, oh, there's a service gap here. I'll just fill it. There's a service gap here. I'll just fill it. There's a service gap here. We'll just fill it. And it's like the guy in the dike just plugging up all the holes in the dam wall. But in organizations and wider systems, people who help out by filling service gaps that they see around them, even when that's not their job to do so, obscure those gaps such that those gaps are invisible to the wider system and those problems never get attended to properly. So by hiding those deeper problems, you're actually creating more problems for more people further down the track. But it's just that you're not seeing it. You're seeing the suffering in front of you and you're focused on that. But somebody else further back up the chain is relying on the information from your experience to be able to service a wider proportion and particularly get resources where they're necessary. If you don't be careful, you will experience burnout. I work with burnout all the time. It's a real thing. It really happens. It's what happens when you have tried to avoid being human for too long. Help yourself. Take care of yourself first. When I talk about self-care, there's a webinar on self-care. I probably would have said this there. I'll say it now. As a professional helper, my life is self-care. Everything in my life is set up where I live, how I live, my physical activity, the way I spend time with my family, the way I structure my time. Self-care first. But inside the bubble of self-care, that's where I do my work. And within the bubble of self-care, then I'm able to do great work and a lot of work and be very productive. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. Look forward to seeing you next time.